Hello, I'm Brenna Malloy, and I'm recording this tonight not as a business owner, but as a woman, a mom, and a survivor. So I am attempting to use the platform of the Maxwell arrest today. She was the accomplice of Jeff Epstein, and she was arrested this morning. And I am setting the intention to use this as a platform to raise awareness of what we call the silent epidemic of childhood sexual abuse. Now, in the case of Epstein, we're talking about young women who appear to be between 14 and 18 or so. But childhood sexual abuse affects children of all ages, of all races, in all economic backgrounds, with all kinds of family structure. This is not something that is merely one type of victim. We are very good, I believe, at talking to our children about stranger danger. But what I'm asking you to do tonight is to take a pause and educate yourself a little bit on how to talk to your children about the other danger, the dangers that happen in our own communities and our own families and our own homes. Now, that might seem like a really intimidating thing for me to say. That is not something comfortable to think about for most parents, right? Like, how can that be comfortable to think about, let alone talk about? But it's the truth. So here in 2020, we have gotten really good at relying on the CDC for information. So I am going to take this opportunity to share with you a statistic from the CDC's website about what I just said. So these are 3 bullet point facts from the CDC, and I think it's very important data that we know. So to begin with, roughly 1 in 4 girls or 1 in 13 boys experience childhood sexual abuse at some point in their childhood. So that is before the age of 18, okay? And this is a very underreported kind of abuse. So those numbers could be and are likely higher, especially from my experience in the section of the 1 in 13 boys, because it just seems to be an area where it's less reported. The other statistic about how this happens within our world is that 91% of childhood sexual abuse is perpetrated by someone the child or the child's family knows. I want you to think about that for a second before I move on to the third fact. 91% of children who are sexually abused know their abuser. Their parents likely know the abuser. That means it's likely someone that they trust. Okay, that is a terrifying statement to hear as a parent. It is absolutely terrifying. But you know what's more terrifying? It's more terrifying to be 1 in 4 girls or 1 in 13 boys and have a perpetrator and predator within your family's network and circle who has access to you. That's much more scary than having this conversation and facing this reality with your child. Okay? So if you have the conversation ahead of time about how to report this, how to respect your body, how to know when someone's not respecting your body, and how to tell mom, dad, grandma, whomever those safe people are, so it can be stopped and caught and addressed as early as possible, that's how we end this. That's how we put a stop to this particular epidemic. So the last fact, and I'm really not about the money, but it's here. So, and I said I was going to read 3, so I'll read it to you. The total lifetime economic burden of child sexual abuse in the United States in 2015, so 5 years ago, was estimated to be at least $9.3 billion. That's considered to be an grossly underestimated because we don't really know the full amount of children that are impacted, and some receive treatment and stuff like that that's not reported directly. So that being said, I want to talk about reporting. You can report something you suspect. You don't need proof. Okay? Now, I don't want Child Protective Services calling and interviewing my family. That sounds scary, right? That sounds really intimidating. But again, it's far scarier to think that a child I know and love is being abused and that I wouldn't know and there'd be no way to stop it. I would much rather have an interview where everyone is innocent than not have the interview and have someone being hurt by someone that they know and trust or should be able to trust. Okay? So I want you to consider that. If you don't know who to report this to, your school's resources like the principal, the guidance counselor, the teacher, your pediatrician. They're all what we call a mandated reporter. So if you don't know who to call or where to like sleuth this out, that's the good news. You don't have to. If your child comes to you and says, this happened, I was uncomfortable, or they start exhibiting certain symptoms, you can call one of these people, one of these places, and they're going to help you find the right place and the right people to have the actual conversation with your child based on what's appropriate. They're trained in that. I'm not trained in that. You're probably not trained in that. I don't know how to properly disclose that for psychological. I'm not a therapist or a counselor, but I am a mom, and I'm an advocate in my family and in my community. And I work with an organization called Stop Abuse, and this is their book that they've written for children. It's Simon Says Play It Safe, and it's a great way to talk about lots of safety things, and it gets into sexual abuse as well. So it's a way to address it without maybe being intimidating or as intimidating with your child. It's a good way to start the conversation in your family. The other thing that I really like, and I've always done with my daughter, is knowing safe people. Like if something's wrong and you can't tell mom, or your mom's not available, or what have you, who else will you talk to? You never lead this conversation, okay? You need to listen for who the child puts on that list of who the safe people are. Okay. And then I learned this really great trick earlier this year, and that's where you then draw their little hand and have them put their safety people on the hand because they're helpful. They're on your hand. They're on your side. They give you a helping hand. So that's a trick that I really liked for having that conversation and making it appropriate for the child and at that level. The other thing you can do if you are in Virginia, and I'm not sure, maybe other parts of the country, is the organization that I work with also has a program for schools, and it's age appropriate 1 through 5. So you can reach out to them. I'll put their information in the bio here. I have a couple of these dolls. His name is Simon, and he's got eyes so he can see what's going on, and little antennae so he can hear what children need to tell him. And he's a really great tool, again, for working with kids that it comes along with this book and helps with the conversation. Stop Abuse also does a marionette puppet show locally here in Virginia Beach at the moment, and it's a good way to engage in that conversation. And I know I'm stuttering a lot tonight. It's not an easy conversation, and it's something I'm very passionate about speaking out about. And I was so excited this morning to get up to the news that this Maxwell woman had been arrested, because I felt like we're holding someone accountable now. When Epstein was arrested, I was also excited, but he pretty quickly took his own life. And I don't know about you, but that didn't feel like justice. That felt like skirting it. That felt like running away. So I am excited for the victims of that entire scenario to have the opportunity to tell their story, to speak out, to say that they were part of it, and to hold someone accountable for what happened to them. I also want to encourage you to use the appropriate words with your family and with your children and those that you're supporting through this. Words matter when it comes to this, okay? So first of all, your children need to know the appropriate words for their body parts. Breast, vagina, penis, those are appropriate words. You can have cutesy words at home for when you have to go to the potty. That's okay. But when it comes to this stuff, it's actually really important that they know words age appropriately. Okay. I mean, a 1-year-old's not going to use those words, but your 5-year-old can. Okay. And it may seem uncomfortable, but it doesn't have to be. You can become the advocate in your family and in your community that makes it easier to have the conversation by starting the conversation. So, that being said, the other thing I want to address is they're saying that this has happened to girls as young as 14 when it comes to Maxwell and Epstein. But I have heard some incredibly negative comments about the act of consent at that age, because many of these young women were paid. I can't tell you how infuriating that is. So I feel my blood pressure rise when I see those little statements on social media, on Twitter, whatever. A 14-year-old cannot have their appendix removed without parental consent. A 14-year-old cannot vote. They, in many places, can't get a job. They cannot be emancipated. 14 is a child. There is a reason we have age of consent. There's a reason it's there. Because of the mental and emotional place that gets damaged when we are forced or coerced into sexual relationships with adults. I'm talking about it with adults. We could go down the rabbit hole of teenagers having sex. That's a very different conversation. So that's not what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about adults and children. And if you're 30 and they're 16, they're a child, you're an adult. And that's illegal and, in my view, quite disgusting. So it's a problem because we don't call it that. It's a problem when we can't have conversations that say 91% of child sexual abuse are perpetrated by someone the child or the family knows. That means it's your community, your home, your family. 1 in 4 girls. 1 in 13 boys. That's a lot. That's a lot of this happening where we know people that we care about, that we love, that we trust. We don't want to use that word. That word, it's incest. We don't want to use it. It happens and it's included in that 91%. And I'm using it regardless if you're related by marriage or blood. It doesn't matter to me. If you are an adult figure in someone's home and somebody calls you uncle something something or auntie so-and-so, that's incest. That's what it is. It's a word in the dictionary. It has a definition and that's what it is. And if we can say that's what it is, and we can say that's not just creepy so-and-so, we can say that person is a predator, a pedophile, they're incestuous, and we can call it those nasty words, maybe it'll stop happening so much, right? When we call out something, it stops happening so much. If we name the villain, name the problem, use the words that accurately describe what's going on, then we can stop it. Now you have a voice. Now victims have a voice. And victims know they have an advocate, and you can be that advocate. Okay? I'm going to take a drink of my water and catch my breath. I get really worked up on this topic. I've seen it. It happens in good families. It happens in families with trouble. It does. It happens in, again, like I started with, it doesn't know a race. This is not something about income or what kind of neighborhood you live in or what kind of job your parents have. It happens. None of that matters. Okay? Predators, they might have a type, but that's to the individual. As a group word, predator, pedophile, what have you, there is no statistic that says these kids are more likely than these kids based on gender, age, demographic, however you want to divide it up. It happens. Okay? Now, I just said gender, and you're going to go back to that fact on the CDC. This is 1 in 4 girls, 1 in 13 boys. Okay. Based on those facts, maybe girls are more likely than boys. I think those numbers are wrong. That's just been my experience. I think it's a lot more even than that. Just in my view, and it's just as wrong, right? It doesn't matter if it's your son or your daughter, it's still wrong. So, this is a tough talk. It's a tough one. And I've listed a few resources. I'm going to put a few more in the bio for this video. I tried doing a Facebook Live earlier, and I rambled a lot, more than I am now even. So I'm going to make sure the resources are there. I'm also going to make sure that if you reach out to me directly and you're in my community, or if I have the ability to give you other resources, that I respond to that, because that's what being an advocate is. Okay, whether it's an 800 number that you call and you get another one and you have to follow up, that's what this is sometimes. That's part of the process. The process gets easier the more people that use it. Okay, so I'm considering reading for you something that's in our book, Building Wings. And I was going to read a really long one, but I'm probably going to tear up and blubber about it. So I'm going to read the more hopeful one that's short, okay? Maybe I'll come back to it later. So it's called Until Today. And I want to read this with you and to you tonight because I would like to look at today as a turning point in the discussion about childhood sexual abuse and therefore a turning point in the number of children in our society that are victimized. Okay? Until Today by Brennan Malloy. Until today. Today I said, I am mine. I am my joy. I am my love. I am my peace. Today I found my soul. Today I claim for myself. Today I have faith. Today I am whole. Today I am new. Today I am strong. Today I build new wings. Today I forgot you ever were. Today you never were. And when you're healing from something like that, there will be a day that feels like that. And as you work through your healing, you just keep your eyes on that day. Because that person will matter less and less who hurt you. They become smaller and smaller as you go on your journey. And then they never were. Okay, mascara was not a good call this afternoon. But thank you for listening to me. And I really hope that you're able to find your voice and be an advocate. And if you've been a victim, find your voice and find help and support for yourself. Thank you.